Hello and welcome to Doubles and Trebles. We're back for quarter two of the World Darts Championships betting preview and analysis. You won't see my face for very long because we're going to go straight in and we're going to show you on screen what the section two or quarter two looks like. There's the 8 seeds, as you can see, that get a bye into the second round. Of the 4 quarters, this is certainly the most open in terms of the betting. We've got Dimitri Van den Bergh's 3-1 favourite to win this section of the draw, and James Wade is 92. In comparison to the other quarters, the likes of Gerwyn Price, Peter Wright, and MVG are all less than 2-1 to win their respective quarters. So this is pretty open, and it'll be no surprise, that I think this is the weakest section of the draw because I think there's some players in this section that are quite out of form. We'll get onto those a little bit later. So starting from the top, James Wade, the 4th seed, is 50-1 to win the tournament outright and 9-2 to win this section. He's not the favourite to win this section, despite being the highest seeded player. But we will come on to that. It's not James Wade's fault that this quarter looks pretty open and pretty weak. But what can I say about Wade that hasn't already been said? He's solid as you like. He's been a top 6 ranked player for what seems to be years and years and years. Is incredibly hard to beat most of the time, particularly in the TV tournaments. He doesn't try. He doesn't show his best on the floor. Let's put it that way. He has been a bit hit and miss in the big TV tournaments this year. He's had some early exit, but tends to get to at least one big final a year. And he kind of has done that for years, and that's what keeps his ranking up there. Like there'll be one tournament a year. You can't really predict which one it'll be, but Wade will go on a run and make a final. He actually won the UK Open at the start of this year. Made the Grand Slam semi-final recently. They've been his highlights in the big TV tournament, but away from those tournaments mentioned, hasn't done too much. Is a couple of early exits. One of the players I never appear or never feel like I get right from a betting perspective is Wade. But the lack of informed competition in this section could make him interesting at 50-1. We're going to come on to those, but in a nutshell, I think Wade and Dimitri, the only people in this section that Wade and Van den Bergh have got to worry about is each other, in my opinion, and I'm going to tell you why shortly. Just moving on down from Wade, the next seed in this section is Vincent Van Dever. He's the 29th seed. He's 300-1 to win the tournament, or 25-1 to make the semi-final. A fan favourite usually makes the 3rd or 4th round at Ali Pali. Last year was a typical example of that. A very good round 3 win over Nathan Aspinall before a 4th round exit to Gurney. That's the kind of thing that Van der Voort normally does at the Worlds. He's done virtually nothing this year on TV until the Players' Championship finals just recently, where he played pretty well before losing out to Clayton in the quarters. I think the script's written for Vincent this year. He's going to be favourite to beat Adam Hunt or Boris Kirchner. Then he's going to come up against James Wade. He might nick a couple of sets, but I can't see Vincent progressing past James Wade this year in the form he's in. The next seed is Joe Cullen, the 13th seed. He's 66-1 outright or 7-1 for the quarter. He's been threatening to break through for years. We've been saying this about Joe Cullen. But he's 32 now and he does need to press on and at some stage make a final or even go on and win one. He dumped out Clayton here last year before nearly beating MVG. So he did show real flashes in last year's World Championships, and he's got that experience that I think is key at Ali Pali. He shows flashes on the stage and on the floor, Joe Cullen. He's always good to be winning one or two of the Players' Championship events throughout the year. He's had a nice draw this time round. I think he'll be quite happy, Joe Cullen. And I think he'll fancy himself as going into maybe the third, well, definitely the 3rd round and maybe the 4th round where he'll potentially face Wade and potentially beyond. And the reason that Joe Cullen will be confident is because next on your list, Simon Whitlock, the 20th seed. He can count himself lucky to be still ranked 20th in the world, to be honest. Whitlock is 150 for the tournament or 18-1 for this quarter. I think he should be a few points bigger than that in both markets, to be honest with you. Whitlock was a shot World Championship runner-up all the way back in 2010, if you can remember that far back. One of the most negatively impacted players by COVID, if you ask me. He didn't even play in the Grand Prix or the match play, despite qualifying, and his ranking has dropped as a result. His ranking's plummeting, to be honest with you. He's 20 in the world now. He does like Ali Pali and was possibly the most unlucky 4-0 loser ever against Ratajski in round 3 last year for anyone that remembers that game, and particularly those that might have bet on him, like me. It was painful viewing. He just missed doubles galore. It was really painful. But on everything we've seen in 2021, this does look tough for Whitlock. And like I say, I think Cullen will certainly beat him if they were to match up in round 3. In the bottom half of this section, if you like, Dimitri Van Den Bergh, the 5th seed, is only about 50 grand behind Wade in the ranking. So he was, there's not a lot between the players that are ranked 4, 5, 6, 7 in the official rankings, but they're locked in now anyway. There's nothing the players can do about the rankings now. Dimitri's 18 to 1 to win this, a similar price to what he was last year. Maybe he was a 14 last year, a little bit shorter, and he's a 3 to 1 favourite to win this section. Loves the big stage, Dimitri, loves it. By far his best form this year was in the match play, but that was fully 5 months ago, and he's been a bit hit and miss since then. He missed the Grand Slam with COVID, and I thought that Dimitri treated the recent Players' Championship finals very much as a means of getting his eye in and a bit of practice before the Worlds. I think he went out in the second round there. He'll need to be fully recovered from COVID. I think he probably will be with his age and his youth on his side in regards to recovering from that. I'm no expert. But he will need to get over that and perform his best here. He is favourite to win this quarter ahead of Wade. And he's got a lovely draw on paper, to be honest. The other 3s in this section, what Dimitri is in, have all got big question marks for me. We're going to come on to 2 of them. But the first seed that Dimitri is likely to face is Devin Peterson, who is now ranked 28 in the world. Devin Peterson was 33 to 1 to win the Worlds last year. There was quite a bit of hype around him. I did say at the time that 33 to 1 was the worst price in the whole field. Well, Devin Peterson this year is 300 to 1. He's nearly 10 times bigger a price this year as he was last year. That tells you all you need to know about his form. He's done virtually nothing on TV at all, and the marauding 180 hitting that typified his career best form in 2020 for Peterson appears to have deserted him. I've not got a lot of positive to say about Devin Peterson in regards to this tournament. I think Jamie Hughes, if he was to make it through the first round and face Devin Peterson in the second round, I think Jamie Hughes would fancy that. And even if Peterson got through to the third round, he isn't getting past Dimitri Van Den Bergh, if you ask me. Next awaiting Dimitri Van Den Bergh potentially will be Krzysztof Ratajski or Mervyn King. First onto Krzysztof, the 12th seed. His consistency personified. The Polish James Wade, we've said this all before, has been solid on the floor for a few years and has slowly transferred that floor form, which everyone knows about in the game. He's transferred that to the big stage in the last couple of years. He's made quarterfinals in last year's Worlds, this year's UK Open, this year's Grand Prix, and a semi-final in the match play. That's solid form. That is really solid form. 2021 has been a good year for Ratajski, no doubt. But, and it is a reasonably big but, he had a very uncharacteristic finish line meltdown in the Grand Slam when going out in a last leg decider against young Nathan Rafferty. That was very rare to see from Ratajski. He missed a hatful of doubles. He missed a hatful of match darts as well, if I remember rightly. And you could see the emotions and frustrations from Krzysztof that we don't see very often. Then he looked far from his best in the Players' Championship finals. He lost out in the second round to Willie O'Connor. So that's the 2 most recent tournaments. If you're taking them in isolation, Ratajski is in quite poor form. Probably the poorest form he's been in for the best part of 2 or 3 years. But if you take 2021 as a whole, and like I say, he's made the quarters in last year's Worlds, UK Open Grand Prix, semi-final in the match play. Take 2021 as a whole, Ratajski at 50 to 1 could be dangerous. Could be dangerous. He will not fear Dimitri Van Den Bergh. He might not be good enough to beat him if Van Den Bergh's on song, but if Van Den Bergh's not recovered from COVID, the likes of Ratajski, with his usual solid form, he's going to trouble him, and that 50 to 1 or the 7 to 1 for the quarter might look juicy. But Krzysztof's going to have to bounce back quickly from his recent poor performances, because both Madars Razma and Steve Lennon, who face off in the first round, will not be pushovers if they were to make it to the second round and face Krzysztof. The final seed in this section, Mervyn King, the 21 seed, is 100 to 1 outright, 16 to 1 for this section. Pieman's favourite, still going strong at 55, shaking his head at celebrations, playing the crowd and throwing top quality darts in there as well. He rocked up at Ali Pali last year in possibly the form of his life. He was definitely in top form. He continued that throughout the tournament, actually. A 4-0 thrashing of Jose de Souza, the highlight for Mervyn King in this tournament last year. Then he beat Cross, Aspinall and Price en route to the Masters a month after the Worlds. He made the final, coming up short against Johnny Clayton, but Mervyn King this time last year and beyond into January was in great form. He was unlucky in his last two TV tournaments, Merv, to be honest. Two last leg decider defeats saw him crash out of the Grand Slam at the group stage, which was a shock. And then he averaged 99.98 and was defeated by Darius Labanowskis in the Players' Championship finals. You can mark him down as unlucky there. So maybe one going under the radar. Murphy it's similar to Christoph. He's not done it in the two most recent TV tournaments. But unlike Christoph, Mervyn King potentially has excuses for those underperforming. And he is double the price to win this tournament of Ratajski. He's 50 to 1 Ratajski, 100 to 1 Merv. If they were to meet in round 3, it would be close on the betting between them. Merv probably doesn't have the longevity to win a tournament like this nowadays, but he could certainly make a quarterfinal, especially if the likes of Ratajski remains out of form or Dimitri hasn't fully recovered from COVID. But they are both big ifs. I've got Shane in the chat. I'm very well, Shane. I hope you are well. Yeah, it is that time of the year, the most exciting time of the year. And while you're on, Shane, I'll give you my conclusion to quarter 2. I'm taking it on good authority. I'm taking on a positive assumption that Dimitri Van Bergh has recovered from COVID. He's got a tricky second round draw because Germans Florian Hempel and Martin Schindler are both on the up, if you ask me. They're both, Hempel is a player going places. You might not have heard of Florian Hempel. He is a good player, and I think he's going to do well in the future. And Schindler's done okay in the latter part of this season, particularly on the floor events. So Dimitri's not got a straightforward second round draw. He should have enough to get through them. He'll have an easier time against either Jamie Hughes or Devin Peterson, in my opinion. And then Christoph and Merv, they've got question marks over their form. So yeah, I'll probably take Dimitri to take this section. And the obvious, and I know it's obvious, I've got more better betting opinions as we go on into quarter 3 because I'm going to have picked 2 favourites to win the first 2 quarters. But that's how we're looking. We'll be back with quarter 3 soon. And I hope you're enjoying it. Juanita, nice to have you in the chat. Good evening. And to you, Shane, as well. So, yeah, keep watching. Plenty of content to come. And Pie Man will be back soon.